Good day, everybody. Let's discuss first, and let's go back to Unit 1, Nature of Research, Lesson 3, Qualitative and Quantitative Research. It's empirical that we go back to this topic because this will help us, or this will introduce us to the two main types of research, and will also help us understand what is blended research. So in this lesson, the main goal is for us to talk about qualitative and quantitative research. So I want you to take down the key lessons that we are going to discuss and questions that may arise during the discussion so that we can cater them during online classes. All right, let's begin. First question: how do we find answers to the questions we have about everyday phenomena? Of course, everything that we see around us, everything that we experience, and everything that is accepted or rejected really goes or really starts by being a question. It starts as to why this happens, how this happens, and what are the key elements as to led to this happening or led to this particular phenomena. So in this lesson, we are going to differentiate qualitative from quantitative research and explain the characteristics of both qualitative and quantitative research. Now, if you were to do research on a particular topic, what type of data would you gather? Remember that making sure that you gather the right data will help you largely in coming up with the right resolution or the right answers or findings of your research study. So, in doing so, we are going to look at the different types of research. We have two main types: qualitative research and quantitative research. Now, if you mix those two, we have mixed methods research, or we are trying to incorporate different methods of research. Now, let's begin talking about qualitative research. Qualitative research focuses on words along with its construction, meanings, and interpretations. It asks open-ended questions to extract meanings, perceptions, and interpretations. So take note that the key word or the key term that we need to remember is that qualitative research focuses largely on words and asks open-ended questions to extract the meaning, the perception, and the interpretation of whatever data or topic or concept that you are studying. Here are different strategies of inquiry when conducting qualitative research. We have phenomenology, grounded theory, ethnography, case study, and narrative research. In terms of data collection, we can utilize the following: interviews, focus group discussions, and content analysis. Now, these are examples of qualitative research. We have perspectives of teachers on the implementation of anti-bullying policies. Now, take note that the main focus here is all about words. We are not talking about the gathered data or numerical factors in terms of our study. Another example: cultural practices of an indigenous group and their respective meanings. Next, perceptions on the importance of freedom of speech. And lastly, interpretations of political speeches. So if you're going to observe these examples of qualitative research, it all talks about your perspective, cultural practices, meanings, perceptions, and interpretations. Meaning to say, we are going to focus more on describing and putting into context the different aspects of the topic that you want to research or that you want to study about. So that is a key concept when we are talking about qualitative research. Now, we need to remember that qualitative research may possibly use numbers and figures. It does not limit to quantitative research only. However, its analysis still focuses on words, meanings, interpretations, and perspectives. We do not need to solely rely on the numerical factors, but the focus will always be on words, meanings, interpretations, and perspectives. Now let's talk about quantitative research. Quantitative research is a means for testing objective theories by examining the relationship among variables. It makes use of statistics in the collection, analysis, and interpretation of numerical data. Take note that the key concept here is that testing objective theories through examining the relationship among different variables. Now, these are the different strategies of inquiry when we are talking about quantitative research. We have survey research and we also have experimental research. Now, in terms of data collection, we can utilize surveys and experiments. Now, let's try to look into different examples of quantitative research. First, effects of physical exercise on sleep quality. So if you're going to understand and analyze this particular research or quantitative research example, you're going to tackle about the relationship of this theory, of this objective theory, to the variables that are present, which will be utilizing statistics from the numerical data that is gathered. For example, in this first example of quantitative research, we can always consider the number and the frequency of physical exercise that we do in a day or in a week as to the number of hours of the sleep that we consider quality or that we consider sound, kanang komportable ta matulog. So still, we are looking into the relationship of the variables by testing, right, objective theories that is utilizing statistics in order for us to analyze these gathered data numerically. Second example, preferences of college students towards computer operating systems. And lastly, impact of social media use on rising fashion trends. So all of these talks about the different relationships of variables in testing objective theories as well as the usage of statistics by the gathered data through the numerical factors, right? Now, here's a tip that I would like you to take note. Qualitative techniques rely on words, while quantitative techniques use numbers. So this is the key definition or the key difference between qualitative and quantitative. But remember that there are underlying factors. So when you are going to be asked about both qualitative and quantitative, don't just simply rely on the keywords, words, and numbers. Always think that pag maghisgot ng qualitative techniques, yes, this relies on words. This also relies on the perceptions, the meanings, as well as the interpretations. While quantitative would always talk about testing theories or testing objective theories with the use of statistics. That's how we try to expound, pagpalalom sa statement that qualitative techniques rely on words, quantitative techniques use numbers. Always remember that. Now, we also have what we call mixed methods research. This employs the elements of both quantitative and qualitative research in terms of strategies and methods. We have here the three different examples. We have sequential. Sequential elaborates or expands the findings of one method with another method. Concurrent. Qualitative and quantitative methods and data are being used and collected at the same time. And transformative talks about a theoretical lens is used as an overarching perspective within a design that contains both quantitative and qualitative data. So these are very important key points that you need to remember when we are also talking about mixed methods research. Mixed methods, there is always the presence of qualitative and quantitative research or data. In sequential class, qualitative is expounded by the quantitative, while There are also events or studies wherein quantitative is expounded by qualitative. Magbaylo sila. In concurrent, it is always qualitative plus quantitative. Maski ibaylo-baylo nimo sila, it's always qualitative plus quantitative. Okay, balik ta. In sequential, pwede mabaylo-baylo who expounds who. Qualitative may be expounded by quantitative. There are also studies where quantitative is expounded by qualitative, whereas in the concurrent, qualitative is always added with quantitative. Dili pwede mabulag ang duha. Now, it is important that we remember that mixed methods research does not only combine qualitative and quantitative techniques. Remember that it also considers the complementarity of the two techniques. If these two techniques, qualitative and quantitative, will help complement each other with the use of the study that we are conducting, or according to the use in the study that we are conducting, then it is also considered. However, right, it is always a must that we remember that in mixed methods, the presence of qualitative is always being repealed by the presence of quantitative techniques. Now, in comparing qualitative and quantitative techniques, here are the advantages. In qualitative research, it provides a richer and deeper understanding of the phenomenon. Participants can provide deeper and more detailed and specific answers to the questions, while in quantitative research, findings are generalizable and reflective of the population due to the large number of participants. The use of statistical methods in the collection and analysis of data gives validity and reliability to the findings. What are the disadvantages of qualitative and quantitative research? In qualitative research, number of participants or the sample size is smaller compared to quantitative research. Since we are going to talk about providing richer and deeper understanding of the phenomenon, the sample size or the number of participants is going to be smaller compared to quantitative research, where enriching and deepening of the understanding of the phenomenon is less or is provided differently. Qualitative research provides narrative findings from a small number of participants that are not generalizable for the whole population. Meaning to say, if this small number of participants or sample size is describing or having these results, it may not be generalized to the entire or to the general or whole population. So kung sa 5, applicable na siya, posible na sa general population, dili applicable. Right? Now, what is the disadvantages when using quantitative research? First, the depth of the answer of the participants is limited due to the large sample size and the use of close-ended questions. Remember, class, that in qualitative research, it is a must that you ask open-ended questions. Kaya lagi, what we are trying to get there is the meaning, the perception, and the interpretation. Meanwhile, in quantitative research, since we are asking close-ended questions, then the depth of the answer of the participants is going to be limited. Kay daghan man kayo ka og sample size. Daghan man sila in terms of number. So if you are going to have them give answers in depth, right, or enrich their answers, palaw man imong answers, or ang ilahang answers, dugay kay kamahuman. That is why you need to ask close-ended questions in order for you to gather the data in a timely manner or pace. Another disadvantage of quantitative research: data expressed as numbers may not always capture the complexities of the phenomenon under study. Just like, let's put this into context. Nowadays, we rely and we debate about survey results on presidential, vice presidential, and senatorial candidates. However, class, remember that these surveys are being conducted in large numbers. So it may not only or it may not always be able to capture the different complexities of these surveys among these candidates under that particular study. Posible nga naay mga respondents nga when they say that they will vote for this candidate, they have conditions set according to themselves. However, it is not reflected on the survey results. Kaya lagi, they are so many, dagko ang atong sample size. Whereas kung sa qualitative research ta, 5 lang katao ang imong pangutanon, you can pick the brains out. You can generate, right? What are their considerations upon voting or casting their vote to this particular candidate? So that is the difference in terms of, or that is the different factors, the advantages and the disadvantages when we compare qualitative and quantitative research. Now, based on your own track and strand, which type of research are you more inclined to do? If you are STEM, unsa nga research study? If you are ABM, Humes, or you are enrolled in the general academic strand, which type of research is more inclined for you, more beneficial and logical for you to do? Now, let's try to wrap up our discussion. Let's remember that there are 3 main types of research, and these are qualitative, quantitative, and mixed methods research. Each type of research has strategies of inquiry and employs specific methods of data collection. In qualitative research, it is in-depth explanation of a phenomenon. Types of qualitative research, we have phenomenology, grounded theory, ethnography, case studies, and narratives. The focus of qualitative research is more on words, meanings, experiences, perceptions, context, and interpretations, while the methods that we use in qualitative research are interviews, focus group discussions, and content analysis with open-ended questions. Now let's go on the other side with quantitative research. Remember that the objective analysis of claims and relationships matter in quantitative research. It is always objective. The types of research that we can do here is survey research and experimental research. The focus in quantitative research is on the numbers, variables, measurable, and observable data. The methods are surveys and experiments with close-ended questions. Now, if we are going to circle in on mixed methods research, remember that this contains elements of qualitative and quantitative research. This may be sequential, concurrent, or transformative. So this is a very accurate representation if we are going to wrap up the discussion on the different types of research, namely the qualitative research, the quantitative research, and mixed methods research. Now, if there are questions that came or arise during our discussion or during this discussion, make sure to write them down and raise them during our online classes. Thank you and God bless.